Thank you, everybody. We now have Councillor Roberts back online and rectified the fault, so we can recommence the meeting. So, Councillor Reeves, in regards to your point of order, and as I said, it was unfortunate that you could not hear, but Councillor Toohey had already spoken first, so he has the floor at this stage.
And apologies, Mark, I neglected to use my microphone, which is the reason why you didn't hear me. So it would appear that my children are correct in regards to what they call me with technology. My alternate motion would read that Council, being the responsible authority and having considered all the relevant planning matters, determines that planning application 319/2019/P is consistent with the requirements of the objectives, of the East Gippsland Planning Scheme, and therefore resolves to issue a notice of decision to grant a permit for a multi-lot subdivision staged at 31 Boyd Court, Eagle Point, subject to the following conditions. Before the development commences, plans to the satisfaction of the responsible authority must be submitted to and approved by the responsible authority. When approved, the plans will be endorsed and form part of the permit. The plans must be drawn to scale with dimensions and must be generally in accordance with the plans submitted with the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Toohey. This has been seconded by Councillor Peltz. So would councillors like to speak? Would you like to speak first, Councillor Toohey? Look, there's probably not much further for me to say. I believe what has been submitted is suitable to the area. It will give diversity of blocks that are available to the area. I think the plan and the subdivision, the way it has been designed, is suitable for the area, and I believe this should go ahead. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Peltz.
Yes, I'd like to say thank you to all those who have written in, and I would also like to make out that the Eagle Point structure plan is a planning obligation, but it is subject to interpretation too. And the bottom line of it all is my interpretation of this subdivision actually I feel is appropriate, and the fact that it is zoned low density development actually suits what they're proposing, and I feel it would be remorse of us to neglect the clients of this application the right for them to be able to fulfil this this development dream. So on that sense, I'm actually happy to endorse this recommendation. Thank you, Colin.
Thank you, Councillor Peltz. Would anyone else wish to speak?
Can I ask for a point of clarification, Mr Mayor?
Councillor Roberts.
Thank you. I note that we received an alternate motion in our email, and I was just following along with Colin there. I just wanted to confirm that, is this the alternate motion that was provided to councillors, or is this a different alternate motion?
This is not the one that was provided. It is a new alternate motion.
So am I the only one in feeling that the remote councillors are a little bit hard done by here, as we don't actually have a written copy of the motion presented?
Yeah, agree.
I'm just about to suggest a point of order here.
Okay, I'm just asking the tech crew if it's possible to get this motion out to you remote councillors. So this may take a little while, because that's now got to be sent back to the tech people from Councillor Toohey's computer, and then it should be sent out to you. So this may take a moment or two.
Mr Mayor, could I just make a comment that for the councillors that are online, just to note that the councillors in the chamber also do not have a copy of this matter. They only have the electronic copy that all councillors have, that Councillor Toohey is referring to an edited version that he has produced and that he's now shared with the administration team who will put it up on the screen very shortly so that everyone can see it. So just to confirm that nobody has information that the people online don't have access to a different level of information to anyone in the chamber, for clarification.
Thank you.
Good. So we'll
Mr.
see that on the
Seer.
screen, will we?
So we could probably continue on while we're waiting for the motion to come up for anyone else who wished to speak for this.
I'd like to speak against it, Mr Mayor.
Yeah, likewise.
All right, well, go ahead, Councillor Roberts.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I would just like to note that just like we've gone through significant work with the troubled planning because of the delay on the rural land use strategy, I feel it's somewhat hypocritical of councillors to go against a plan that has been approved and it has gone through the right processes. I'm for supporting development, but I also believe that we asked the officers to form a document that we had input on, and then to just after agreeing on the document to disregard it. So I can't support it.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Councillor Reeves.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councillors, and Councillor Roberts, thanks for leading the charge there. I think it would be, as Councillor Pelt said, remorse of us to support this particular alternative motion. Councillors, we spent years consulting with the community, invested tens of thousands of dollars to develop the Eagle Point structure plan, and it has statutory weight. Now, councillors, you've got to remember that planning is about order and consistency and strategy and the ability for residents and potential purchasers to have some certainty about what's going on. And this is a bit of adhocracy, and you've got to avoid adhocracy, councillors. Many years of consultation has landed us at this point where we have a structure plan, and you really need to take note of the recommendation from the planners. It just doesn't fit with the structure plan. And in terms of everybody who's written in, well, the people who have written in have objected to this. And we heard one very eloquent and delightful letter today, which represented 10 other objectors to this today. It's just not consistent. And the points raised in that good letter are really the summary of why the original recommendation is what we should go with. And to actually suggest an alternative, it's as if all those years and all the briefings we haven't, you know, our ears are closed. So councillors, don't support this. Let's go back to the original motion.
Any other speakers? Councillor Rotino, are you speaking for or against?
For.
Thank you.
Yep. Mr Mayor, I'd like to speak in favour of the motion, and my reasoning is that there's state planning guidelines which ask councils to look at how they can maximise lots to make housing more affordable, and I see that in this regard, where these lots are going to be fully serviced, that our Eagle Point structure plan, whilst it's been adopted by council, hasn't actually gone through the rest of the steps where the planning minister has approved it. And I think whilst it's at odds with these service lots, I can't support the original recommendation and supporting Councillor Tui's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rotino. Yes, just seen that, Councillor Ellis. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This is a very complex application before council and throws my mind into a tryst in terms of supporting proper planning. And the structure plan was a concept of a wide area of Eagle Point. And then we took the ongoing applications before council that we've dealt with over the last few months. And my mind's drawn back to the application of Mr. Solly in relation to his nearby subdivision, where he had similar plans to the application for council here today. And council, by majority vote, voted against my push to accept this. Now, one of the strengths I had in my argument, or what I thought was a strength, it turned out not to be, was that there were already examples of these 200 square metre blocks within...
Excuse me, Councillor Ellis, just a correction on your notation there. They are 2,000 square metres, the properties, not 200. Just a clarification.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for that. I do apologise. Where was I? Right. So what I'm saying is that there is precedent under delegation from officers, obviously, for these 2,000 square metre blocks, half-acre blocks. In fact, I believe there might be some right adjacent or in between Mr. Solly's application, which is before VCAT currently, and the applicant's subdivision. That being the case, the argument for the maintenance of the Eagle Point structure plan not allowing these 2,000 square metre blocks is weakened by precedent. And this is where I'm heading. I'm finding this greatly difficult not to support Councillor Tui's motion before Council here today. As such, I will be supporting and suggesting other councillors support Tui's motion, although I am I take Councillor Roberts' point that I wasn't familiar with this abbreviated motion, but point taken. So I encourage you to vote in favour of the application.
Thank you, Councillor Ellis. Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Buckley.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a classic case of scale of economy, and I feel that the blocks, the smaller blocks that we initially looked at, they're quite okay in my view, because they're much easier to, it's an economy of scale to service them. It's as simple as that. We've got to try and keep our rates, our costs down and our rates down, and the more people you can, I know this might sound a bit tough in this day and age in such a big country as we've got all this room, but if we can just get a bit more efficiency in our towns and that sort of thing, so I'm going to support Councillor Tui. I'm in favour of the Councillor Tui. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. The only person we haven't heard from is Councillor O'Connell, and her silence means she does not have anything to say. So at this stage, we have a motion. Mr. Cannizzaro, you wish to say something now?
Mr. Mayor, we're now at a stage where we could put the motion up on the screen. The alternate motion.
That would be most helpful. Okay, councillors, I think you would have had sufficient time to read that. Read that
I can't
motion.
see what it is that we're reading and where we're going to read it. So where is the text?
Okay,
Yeah, thanks, Mark.
so none of you online have seen that.
No, Mr Mayor, we can't see it.
I believe we have a copy in our email. I received a copy from Councillor Toohey.
So we've got to read our emails, do we?
It was on the large screen here, so that's disappointing that it wasn't available to you. So we're just going to clarify again. The CEO has also wishes to ask a question of Ms Reynolds. So if we could keep the meeting moving, I'll allow him to do that.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just while we get the item on screen so that all parties can see it, all the councillors can see it. Ms Reynolds, I appreciate that in the issuing of a planning permit, the conditions are a critical part to that, and I just want to make sure that council isn't inadvertently adopting a motion that is either illegal, unenforceable, or we're not able to implement it. So I appreciate that you will have only just seen that, but perhaps you could talk generally, or if you have a specific comment, if you could provide the councillors with some information on that, that would be appreciated.
Thank you, Mr Basford. I haven't seen the alternative motion. What I heard was that it was to issue a notice of decision to grant a planning permit with one condition requiring amended plans with no description. Is that correct?
I believe so. Look, if we're just having this difficulty, I'm wondering if we should not do this orally and read it out to you if you're having difficulties. So if we could get this back up on the screen, and perhaps because my back's to the screen, I was wondering if perhaps our CEO could read it.
It's planning on the run. It's ridiculous, councillors.
Sorry, Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. I'm feeling Councillor Reeves' angst here. I'm wondering, Mr Mayor, if we could perhaps have a 5-minute break from the live streaming, and that council adjourn for a break and a quick discussion on the matter. Do I have anyone's support with that?
Yeah, second that, Dick. Sure.
Yes, we have support around the table also, Councillor Ellis. So again, apologies to those people who are listening in, but with the difficulties we've been having, the technical difficulties, I think it only proper that we adjourn the meeting